to calculate the net asset value of a company, what you're going to do is add together all of its assets. These are things that it has positive. So this would be any stock, any cash, any bonds that you have. Then you're going to subtract off any liabilities that you have. They might have borrowed money to make some of these investments. Then you're going to divide that by N, where N is the number of shares outstanding. N is the number of shares outstanding. Okay? So this essentially, this gives you the NAV. And what is the NAV? Again, the NAV is essentially what's it cost for a share. That's like your price per share, but it's the share of the mutual fund, which is many different stocks. So let's look at this first example, 9. It says a mutual fund has $600 million worth of stock, that's an asset, $5 million worth of bonds, that's an asset, and $1 million in cash, again, that's an asset. The fund's total liability is something they owe, amount to $2 million. It says there are 25 million shares outstanding. You invest $15,000 in this fund. Calculate the NAV. So we want to know what's the price per share. Again, to calculate that NAV, we're going to add together any of the different positive things that it has, any of the assets. So it has 600 million. Plus it has 5 million's worth of bonds. That's in stocks. 5 million worth of bonds. Plus it has 1 million in cash. But then it has liabilities of 2 million. So I actually have to subtract off 2 million. Any liability is a negative value for it. And then you divide it by the number of shares outstanding. There's 25 million shares. Go ahead and plug this into your calculator and let's see what we get. Round to 2 decimal places. I'm getting a NAV of $24.16. So that means if I want to invest one share or purchase one share of this mutual fund, each share goes for $24.16. Again, this is a share of a mutual fund, not a share of a stock. So how many shares are you purchasing? Well, to do how many shares you're purchasing, you're going to do the investment and divide that by the NAV, the cost per share. So my investment in this case was $15,000. My net asset value on this one was $24.16. That's giving me 620.86 shares. But here's the thing, is you cannot buy a fraction of a share in a mutual company. You have to buy whole shares. So I'm going to write a little note here. You want to be really, really careful. In this problem, no matter what the decimal is, you always have to round down. No matter what the decimal is, you always have to round down. I do not have enough money to buy that 621st share, so the actual answer on this one would be 620 shares. Again, this is pretty much the only problem that I can think of in this entire chapter where you're not doing natural rounding. On this one, if you can't purchase the whole share, you have to round down, no matter what that decimal is, even being 0.8. So let's try that again. It says a mutual fund has 750 million worth of stock, 750,000 in cash, 1.5 million in other assets. The fund's total liabilities is 1.5 million. There are 20 million shares outstanding and you invest 10,000. Let's see what happens. So again, the first thing we want to do is calculate that NAV. To calculate that NAV, we're going to add all the assets, which was 750 million plus 750,000. Plus that 1.5 million, so the 1,500,000, minus any of its liabilities. Its liabilities was 1.5 million. Then we divide it by the number of shares that there were. There's 20 million shares. Put that into your calculator, round to 2 decimal points. I'm getting a NAV value of $37.54. when I put that into my calculator. Okay, so now I want to know how many shares I'm purchasing. The number of shares is always the investment divided by that NAV. In this case, the investment was $10,000. That net asset value, that price per share of the mutual fund was $37.54. That's giving me 266.38. Again, no matter what it is, I always have to round down. So this would be 266 shares.